Nice to meet you all. So my name is Thea Palmer and I'm the Chief Client Services Officer at HelloKindred. And for 2 decades, we've been partnering with big multinational businesses, global clients to solve complex marketing resourcing challenges. So we provide agile staffing augmentation, we build nearshore creative hubs, and we create integrated delivery models for marketing teams. So whether that's building like a centralized single hub, say in a location such as Cape Town or in London, or decentralized solutions all around the world, that's exactly what we do and what we know about. So we're really about helping CMOs unlock scalable access to marketing creative talent. And that experience led us into conversations with the London Stock Exchange Group and Steve here. So Steve is the group director of brand and design. I have to get your title right, Steve, otherwise I'll be in trouble. And Steve leads the development and guardianship of the organisation's global brand strategy and portfolio. So that includes the LSEG group. So that's the London Stock Exchange, that's the FTSE Russell indexes, and the LSEG parent brand. And Steve's got strong expertise in marketing, strategic planning, and digital transformation. And Steve has overseen the creation and implementation of LSEG's brand development tools, guidelines, and activations. So thank you, Steve.
Great, thank you very much, Thea.
Before we dive into the conversation today and really speak to what we've been doing with LSEG over the past year, we thought actually, although lots of you will know the LSEG brand, you may not know the diversity of services that LSEG provides and how globally impactful their operations are around the world. So as one of the world's leading financial markets, infrastructure and data providers, LSEG provides a pivotal role empowering economies, markets and brands across the world. We thought we'd let the brand speak for itself and just show you a really short 1-minute video.
In the world of finance, names can be a bit misleading. Take ours, for instance, pronounced LSEG, aka London Stock Exchange Group. Sure, we're in London, but we're also here, and here. In fact, we do business in 190 countries. We're practically everywhere, except here. Well, not yet anyway. We're proud to be one of the world's biggest, most international stock exchanges, connecting capital with ideas for centuries. But that's just part of what we do. Today, we connect the news, information, insights, and systems to create possibility across the markets, partnering with almost every major financial firm in the world. You see, others do some of what we do, but not everything we do. Instead of LSEG, we could have called ourselves the London and practically every other place in the world stocks, bonds, currency, data, analytics, indices, risk management, clearing, exchange, multi-asset class group. But that's a little wordy. LSEG.
So that's a great introduction, I think, to what the LSEG brand is. So thank you very much for letting us share that today, Steve. We've been working together, I think, for the last year. So we've got 4 questions that we're going to address today in terms of sharing some of the things that we've been up to rethink and transform the approach to delivering creative within the LSEG business. And we've been building out a global creative hub. So as this has been a major shift for the business, I think the first question that I'd like to kind of pose to you today and just get to explain to the room is really what sparked the decision to rethink the creative model and what were the foundational challenges that you were looking to solve?
Yeah, great. Thank you, Thea. And thank you for having me here as well. I hope I can offer some value here today. So really, the London Stock Exchange, as people know it, in about 4 years ago, purchased Refinitiv, which was a data and analytics company, which was previously Thomson & Reuters data analytics division. And that was 25,000 people and about a $25 billion acquisition. So it was a much, much, much bigger acquisition than the London Stock Exchange previously was. And it was a major transformation in the whole trajectory of the company. So when you acquire and integrate businesses, and besides that, we had 25 other businesses. So there was a concerted effort of a major brand transformation and consolidation. So through that, there was a lot of roles, there was a lot of redundancies, and a lot of transformation about what needed to be the parent brand. And so when you look at the breadth of our portfolio, again, going from 26 businesses down to effectively 3, which is the London Stock Exchange, which is actually only about 4% of our company. The data and analytics and risk intelligence and FX is about, 60 or 70% of our business, and the rest would really be FTSE Russell indexes as well as other business areas as well. So we needed an efficient way to do that. And the other challenge was that since we had done so many acquisitions over the years preceding me, a lot of people had ways of working with different agencies, different looks and feels, different brands, different just about everything. And so as we pulled everything together, it wasn't economically or operationally feasible to maintain all those operating structures and ways of working and agency relationships. So we still have a nice network of agencies, but we try to keep them to specialist functions, CRM or specific writing and so on. And the other challenge is we're 25,000 people across a portfolio of companies. And to bring that all in-house would require a major investment in the people to build all that out. And to do that right in the center of the square mile is really expensive to do. And we did have quite a big complement, but it just wasn't a sustainable or affordable model. So when we talked to HelloKindred about this, it just became a really good opportunity to, one, grow our business and our footprint where we already were located. So our World Check business, which is what a lot of financial services customers would use for know your customer, KYC or anti-money laundering, AML. So that's already based in Cape Town. So we had a footprint, we have an office, and we had capacity. And as it worked out, HelloKindred is located there. So they had a lot of expertise. So outsourcing, or what we call insourcing, is very common, and typically people look for often the lowest cost market. And I think as running brand, because my team sets the creative direction, the brand direction for the portfolio of companies, we also create the content, so the studio side. And with all respect, that would be really, really hard to do if we had just an agency or people in India on a completely different time zone. And that's the key part here, is you can't really do creative and content production on a 12-hour cycle and do it over email. You really need to be able to look at the work, review it, and have that conversation. So South Africa became the logical place culturally. There was alignment in terms of English as a first language, of course, but then time zone was one of the most important variables. So we were effectively in the same time zone. We have people that are very familiar with the culture, and then the caliber of people. If anyone's worked in agencies in London, you'll know that they're always well stocked with South Africans. And so we thought, well, let's just go to the source. And it's worked out really well. So we've insourced them. And the other, I think, really important part is we've given them names, email addresses. There's really no separation between our teams and the rest of the stakeholders. And we don't want to create that separation. We really wanted them to be part of the team. And for all intents and purposes, they are fully embedded and ingrained with their own stakeholders now. So.
Okay. Thank you. I think you've sort of lent into, I think, what was going to be the next question, just in terms of what has made this model work. So why is this different in relation to a traditional approach to changing up how you might get your design and content and creative produced? So a little bit around talent, I think, culture, and then maybe even like workflow integration from that perspective. Like, what's really been working for you to make this a successful model of integration and enabled the creativity to really sing from this hub?
Excellent. Yeah, that's a really big part of it. So just a bit of background. I came out of digital agencies, so I'm really used to working in really agile approaches and kind of workflow, as opposed to traditional kind of brand and advertising where you throw it over the fence. And that's typically, I think, the model. People throw stuff over the fence and hope to get something finished back the next day. So what we did is set up an agile operating model, and I effectively run two streams. One is about creating brand foundations, and the other is about doing the content development and production in the foundations and templates and toolkits. So we have an extensive integration with the Adobe stack. So we start everything on Adobe Workfront, which is really the workflow tool. That's where we intake, triage, review, and decide what we're going to do, whether in-source or outsource to agencies. And then we work through with an agile board. So we're running in sprints. We have an overwhelming amount of demand from our business, but at least we have kind of a gateway now where we can look at the work, we can prioritize it in our agile operating model in terms of prioritization levels and move things through the line. The other thing we're doing in terms of maybe more from a digital practice is we're creating reusable parts. Everything's based on modular design, reusable templates, toolkits. So we're not constantly creating new and different, which is traditionally how we probably operated. Now it's about everything we do, we reinvest so that it's scalable for the group, not for a single use sport campaign or creative. And that's been the ability to kind of accelerate what we're doing.
And how about ownership of the brand? So in terms of where does that sit now within your creative framework?
That's a good point. So we did have quite a big footprint here in London. We don't now. So I think I have about 7 people in London. So when I went to Cape Town, so a team in Joburg, Johannesburg, and Cape Town, and as I really just said to them, this is your brand now. This is where it lives. It lives in South Africa, and I think it was really empowering for them to. When I told them, I'm like, you now own the stock exchange brand, the LSEG brand, the FTSE Russell brands, and you're competing against New York, London, Silicon Valley, Germany. You're competing against the whole world. And again, there is that talent base there. And I think when you have that talent and then give them that opportunity with the structure and the opportunity, they just ran at it. And they are doing incredible work. And they take a real sense of pride. And the quality is great. I think it's been a good opportunity because I think in South Africa, there are domestic brands, and a lot of them, my team have worked on a lot of domestic brands or worked for agencies on international brands. So they do have that experience. But I think for some of them, maybe more of them, they're working now effectively as the owners of the brand. They are the brand. They're not outsourced so much. It is their brand. And I make sure that they understand that. And it's been a big difference. So it's worked out really well.
I think from our perspective in terms of how that team has reacted is that exposure to the international brand has made it a really compelling proposition in terms of being in that role, and actually the ownership that you've given them to take the brand and be creative, right? So this isn't just a kind of turn it round shop. Like, this is a space to own, deliver, elevate, and really bring something, I think, into the LSEG group.
Mm-hmm.
So, and also into different individuals' perspectives, careers, so they're also able to develop through that process. So it's been a really exciting journey, I think, for everybody who's been placed in that team and who's really enjoying that journey with you. So,
and it's I think having them in the team blended with permanent and people from different departments and divisions and business areas has allowed them to learn the business really well, as opposed to just doing a tactical piece of work. And they can see the content and they'll build it out, and they continue building it out, so that I don't have to keep telling them what to do. They know what they're doing because they're building towards something. So it's worked out really well. I think one other thing we've done is I run each week what I call the creative exchange, and this is just like a whiteboarding exercise on FigJam, where I want to see all the work through the user journey. So is it awareness, consideration across our portfolio? So we'd like to see the work in progress as soon as possible, and the whole creative community, even outside our team. So we'll probably have 40, 50 people every week just looking at the work, listening in or contributing. And it's not a governance function, it's a creative collaboration. So again, the visibility of the team is there, the leadership is there, and the work is being shared for the rest of the group. So it's been a really good kind of clearinghouse and show and tell.
I think, and then in terms of thinking around how does this impact the business is the next question that often comes across. So I think what we'd like to look at is sort of how has this model enabled you to deliver maybe those high impact campaigns at the scale that you need, and potentially also for other people in the room, like what are the lessons do you think that other people could apply if they were thinking about how they could transform their creative function?
Yeah, absolutely, great question. So I'd say traditionally in brand and marketing teams run traditional kind of maybe old school advertising models. So brand is a function of advertising, or brand is a function of marketing, and it's about creating different and exciting campaigns that push the boat out. I kind of killed that. And so for me, I take a digital first. So it's about the foundations. We establish the foundations and we don't change the foundations. So colors, typography, all of our visual system. And then you have freedom to use the system within the framework. And so the creative exercise is narrower, but the flexibility is quite grand. So I think we've been able to do that. But it's concentrating that spend over and over and over again back into the brand, rather than trying to be different. And the model we did have before with every agency was to push the boat out. Each agency's ambition is kind of to show how innovative and how great their creative can be. But when you put it all together as a company our size, it doesn't look like anything. It's all different. And then we usually don't have the media spend to run it long enough that it kind of gets traction. So we just said, stop that. Brand is about creating awareness and consideration, and it needs to have consistency. to drive that sense of recall, especially when you're a business as complicated as ours, where as our campaign video showed, is when people think you are just a stock exchange, and that's 1% of your company. If every time you're trying to tell your story, you tell it differently with different colors and visual systems, and it just doesn't resonate. And that's why we're refined the whole brand in the last year and a half since I've come in. I've refined the brand, consolidated it, and give it more structure so that whenever you see our brand now, it's going to be based on the same visual systems. The only flexibility will be image, copy, and maybe color balance within our brand, as opposed to keep putting new stuff out. So the concentration, the visual consistency is going to be much, much higher.
I think, yeah, you've taken control, right? In terms of you brought it back from scattering it out into that agency space, and actually now there's a team with that sense of ownership of where it's going, and like building that legacy for the brand as well. So I think it's like showing, I'd say, amazing results in terms of how you can tell your story, because I think LSEG is a confusing brand, or it can be when you first encounter it if you don't know enough about the business. So it's a real journey. I think you need to take your customers and potential customers on through learning about it. So
and I think LSEG benefits. I was at HSBC before this and did the same thing there, but HSBC is 10 times bigger with way more brands. So same thing. I took all the brands and consolidated them into one visual system. So I've had that benefit of doing it. So I'm effectively doing the same thing, but that added $1 billion in value to the balance sheet at HSBC, not just for me, of course, but from the group.
Steve brings impact, guys. If we want to talk about impact,
but it did. It was a tangible on the balance sheet. Added $1 billion, became a $19 billion brand, and so we're not recreating the approach, but it's a digital first design system based approach, and we run our brand as a product. So we do it really operating with release cycles, not tactical creative. So it's like right now I'm doing the parent brand, but I'm working with the team on podcasts. How do podcasts look, feel, and behave? How does social look, feel, and behave? And there's consistency between head of house, all the visual system, and then CRM, and then email, and all the way down the line. So that's how we'll kind of do a release. So here's the podcast toolkit, use it, and then we'll do the next one based on demand and what customer needs are.
That's fantastic, and I think you've shown that impact, right? Which is fantastic. So just the final part and final question really for us to look at today is, obviously this is all based on like good workflow management and amazing technology, but actually particularly within creative, I think talent is the heart of what you deliver. So how do you sort of make sure that this doesn't just become a delivery engine and sort of becomes a strategic platform for innovation within the business, and really look after that long-term brand legacy? So there's, like, I know we've touched a little bit on it, but like for me that's really important, so it just doesn't become a commoditized function.
Yeah, absolutely. I think to do this effectively, or at least the way I've had success doing it, is really running in a digital first mindset with this idea of modularity, scalability, design system based, and running really as much as you can in an agile approach, as opposed to throw it over the fence, give me something back. And if you're doing that model, it can work, but I'm not sure how well it'll work if you're not completely blending the teams. And I think that's been a really, really important part, as I said, is having the teams part of them, insource them, putting them at desks, giving them email addresses so they don't feel like they're separate. They're part of the team. And so I think that's been a really big part of it, because they're empowered, they own it, they feel like they own it, and they want to work and continue developing it. As opposed to a lot of tactical exercises from potentially a different group of people every time. And I've worked with, in digital, I've worked with a lot of kind of overseas, outsourced kind of design and developments in India and all that. And while the work can be good, it's usually just running on a different cycle. And usually when you take it back in, it needs a lot of work. So a lot of times you need a team to manage the team. Whereas now it's completely blended. So there's a hierarchy there, of course, but what we're trying to do is encourage people to have their own disciplines, their own stakeholders, and continue working with them. And I think that's been really important. But I think giving them the visibility has been really important. Letting them have relationships with their own stakeholders. I should say letting them, but encouraging them to develop them. I think that's been really important. It's been really important,
yeah. I think it is, like, for this not to feel disconnected, right? So to take this away from being transactional for it to be transformational, I think has been the key part of making it a successful journey for LSEG, as we've sort of gone on that journey with you as well. So I think it is possible, and I think it is possible to reimagine it and think about it in a different way and not get stuck in the traditional view of it must be outsourced in this very formulaic fashion or you must work with agencies in this way. This is a kind of blended in-house team which has ownership, which has so much that it can give to the business. And I think for that reason it's been a really successful operating model, and I think it will continue to grow and thrive as we sort of add in different areas to the centre of excellence and go along. So I mean, I'm really excited about what you guys have achieved and what we've been able to help you do. But yeah, it's been brilliant. So
I think you've helped. HelloKindred's really helped us inform how we were going to do it. So I think we had our understanding. But if there's any advice I could give is, one, again, and going back to digital, but follow the design thinking process. Start with what problem are you solving. If the problem is become low cost, that's not the right problem to solve, because any solution can get you there. You really have to define what the creative challenge is and then develop viable solutions that will solve that problem with scale. And that has a lot to do with the ways of working, the team structure, the resource base, and especially how do you blend them in? Because outsourcing and low cost could get you somewhere, but it might not as well. And you may end up with a lot more work and lower quality work if it's just throwing stuff over the fence to save money. So I'd say make them, if you're going to create a team, think about how it's augmentation, and if you can insource, if you have that luxury. But even if they're not insourced into the physical building, try to give them emails. Try to make sure, because even then it was like, how do you get on the systems? If we were in a system where we're always using like file sharing services and they can't access the servers and we can't give them files and so on, it just doesn't work. Couldn't participate in Teams conversations or watch the recordings. It just wouldn't have worked. We would have spent way more time managing the people in the process than actually doing the work. So I think those are some things to do, and of course having a good partner really helps as well. I think the other one that's important is we committed to a 3-year contract,
absolutely,
at least. So I think having that longer term commitment is really important, and having this with executive support I think is really, really important and beneficial.